guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over a pretty entertaining article titled, I cheat on my husband and now he hates all you know who. And a shout out to Martin for sending me this story. And guys, this article is written by a woman. She apparently is a writer, maybe freelance writer, does articles like this. And just like the title says, she cheated on her husband, completely ruined her marriage, and now she's focused on how basically he's become this big jerk, basically a devil, a monster, because he is now behaving in a manner that they label as, well, you know, how they label a lot of guys nowadays. He's a womanizer, all that type of thing. And the funny thing is, throughout this whole thing, very little do you hear about her taking any real personal responsibility for her breaking his heart, ruining the family and all that. All she's focusing on is how much of a villain he is. How he was such a wonderful man before, but after she cheated, now this happened. And how now her daughters hate her guts, and the family and the friends all know what happened, and he's the big villain here. It's ridiculous. But a perfect example about the whole lack of accountability. And it also shows just how, you know, when a guy is so good and wonderful and puts a woman on the pedestal, look what happens. Look what happens to him, and you're going to see more about this. Now, before I go into this, just because I do take pleasure sometimes in rubbing the salt in the wound to a-holes like this, I'm going to read you some parts of her bio, because she does other articles and all that, and I'm going to read her part of her bio here, and remember, as I'm reading this, she is the woman that ruined her family. Now, part of her bio says this. It says, such and such is a vibrant and accomplished woman whose life is a testament to resilience, determination, and hard work. She supports initiatives that empower women, empower them to cheat, ruin their families, and promote education in unserved communities. Her compassion and empathy have inspired her to lend a helping hand whenever she can. Compassion and empathy. Where was the compassion and empathy for her husband when she was having not just cheating on and making a mistake, but full-blown affair? Where was the compassion and empathy for her daughters, who she ruined the family? And this whole lend a helping hand. Well, clearly to her lover, she was lending a helping hand job, as well as other things. It goes on. It says, Megan is a loving and nurturing individual. To her husband or to her lover. Her warm, welcoming nature makes her a cherished friend and confidant. Yeah, she was a real cherished friend and wife to her husband. She's always ready to provide support and guidance, but insists on always telling the truth. I guess that means everywhere else in her life except for her husband. With her indomitable spirit and zest for life, you mean zest for dick, Megan continues to embrace new challenges and inspire those around her to reach for their dreams. So in other words, it's like the saying, those that can't do, teach. So that's what she's doing. She screwed up her life, but she's going to teach others how to make a great life. Well, anyhow, enough of my sarcasm and dumping salt in the wound. Yeah, hello. That big-ass truck went by. I guess he knew it was me, so I was SSM in the car. I mean, he's going to honk at me. Anyhow, after enough twisting of the knife, I'm going to read her little article here about her villain husband here. It says here, I just finished reading a popular romance novel. Of course, this broad reads romance novels. On page 4, the main character states, I finally had sex with him last night. She's talking about a childhood friend who she has been close with for 40 years. Over the course of the book, she tries to decide if she wants to be with the old friend or with her husband, who she claims to truly love and describes as lovely, tall, handsome, elegant, and wonderful. She says she adores her husband with love as deep and strong as tree roots. Yeah, and in this fictional character in the story, her action says otherwise. She says he adores her and their children and admits she does not deserve him. Oh, here we go. The excuse to screw it up. She loves him, everything about him, yet after the betrayal, an act one call impetuous despite it being 40 years in the making, she chooses the lover. Of course she chooses the lover. You hear all this about how wonderful this guy in this book is, and she chooses the lover. She believes her husband is not vindictive, saying whatever happens, he would never take my children away from me. Never create a rift between me and them. He loves us all too much for that. The book ends without mention of what happens next. I suppose the reader is meant to believe that the woman knows her husband well and married, and the marriage ends amicably. I wouldn't be so sure. So, you see how she's setting the stage here. In the book, the woman has this wonderful marriage and family, but she finds this lover, and blah, 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 and it happens, and she gets caught, but she would never believe that the husband would be vindictive or anything like that. It's called a fucking book. Written for women. And sadly puts bad ideas in their heads. She says, I had a similar experience, and at the time of my affair, thought much like the character in the book. I was deluded by my own narcissism and found out just how different real life is from romantic fantasy. Really? You don't say. You don't understand, lady, that these books are meant for women who are bored. And I don't care. Everybody says most women have read at least one of those stupid books with Fabio on it back in the day. You know, I'm talking. You go to CVS and where the magazines are, you see those stupid books meant for bored housewives, just like at the grocery store. She didn't think that the book is meant to fantasy, not real life. I too had a male friend from childhood who never gave up hope that one day I would be his. Really? You married your husband, meanwhile you were carrying a torch for this dude? Meaning the second he gave you attention, boom, you're going to leave your husband and kids for him? Even after we both had married and remained friends, even though I knew his ultimate goal was to possess me. And this is why your wife shouldn't be friends with men, or your husband should be friends with other women. My husband trusted me and saw no reason for me to give up on an old friend. Smack to the husband. Shouldn't have done that. Of course, I was never truthful with my husband. Didn't she say in the beginning of her bio here about how always telling the truth? We heard that in the beginning about her bio about always telling the truth. Well, except for her husband here. Of course, I was never truthful with my husband. I never told him about the kisses my friend and I shared, or the many times he begged me to leave my husband and children. As with the character in the book, the mundane sameness and weight of married life and raising children took its toll, and I eventually succumbed to the lure of passion. Oh, I guess it's the romance novels book, huh? And I'm going to point out, you're going to see how she describes him as a wonderful man and all these things. What happens when guys are that wonderful to women? And like the character of the book, one night I finally had sex with him. Our covert affair occurred at a party while my husband and my friend's wife were in another part of the house. Yeah, she's a real catch here. The sex was great, but guilt began eating at me immediately. I tried to distance myself from my friend, but by now he was part of our lives, and to cut him off would have required an explanation to my husband. Yeah, yeah, real convenient. That's the reason you couldn't cut him off. We continued having SEX for several months until my husband figured out and confronted me. Men are smart, but women are also smart too. Something tells me she wanted to get caught. She didn't cover her tracks on purpose. Yeah. Before our confrontation, my husband was a kind and gentle man. He loved to laugh and treated me and our kids with respect and endless love. Well, where did him giving you this endless love and kindness and being wonderful, where did that get him? Being cheated on. And her talking, keeping tabs on this guy from childhood all these years. This is why, guys, I'm telling you now, I know you don't want to hear it, some of you, that if you're getting serious and you're getting married, the wife doesn't have dudes she talks to. Okay, obviously, she's going to have male coworkers, and there's a degree to that, of course. She should be talking after hours or on the weekend and stuff like that. Certainly not hanging out with other guys here, but look. My husband was devoted to us until that moment when he finally understood the extent of my betrayal. She wanted to get caught. I'm convinced of this. I saw his body tensing, his fist clenching, and the pain in his eyes turned to hate and burned into my soul. He drew his fist back, and I knew he was going to hit me. Well, Sean Connery would approve. I'm very lucky he hadn't lost all self-control. His fist came at me like a freight train, but slammed the wall behind me, missing my face by inches. When he pulled his hand away from the crater he made in the wall, it was bloody. I took hold of it and tried to lead him to the sink to rinse the blood off, but he pulled his hand away and raised the bloody fist, threatening to hit me again. This time I knew he wouldn't miss. Yeah, he's probably like, bitch, get your hands off me. He says, leave me the F alone. He screamed and shoved me away. I no longer recognize my gentle husband. Here we go. Really? He found out you've been cheating on him all this time, and the mother of the kids, and you expect him to be gentle? What, just like in the romance novels where the husband's like, okay, honey, that's okay. We'll get divorced. No betrayal hurt. She says, my wonderful husband, until then, a good man changed that day. He didn't just magically change. Fucking Merlin didn't cast a spell. Dumbledore didn't come back from Harry Potter land and get his wand out and changed him with magic. You changed your husband. You broke his heart. You broke him. And your family. He became sullen, vindictive, and hostile. I would too. And you would too if he was banging some chick. He packed up and left the house. His only words to me were that I was a SLUT and hoped I'd rot in hell. Well, let's see. You were cheating on him for months physically, obviously cheating on him in other ways before, and I have a funny feeling, even though she really embellishes how wonderful a person she is in her bio that I read in the beginning of this article, or video here, probably was cheating before. And so what? So that usually my book categorizes someone, a gal, as a SLUT. And she's a mom, I might add. He woke our two girls and told them he was leaving because their mother was a lying, cheating WHORE, and that he wouldn't see them for a long time, but that they should remember it was their mother's fault. Well, it is the mother's fault. And it sounds like he's abandoning his kids. He's not abandoning his kids, but I think this guy's smart enough to realize, I better get out of here before I do something that I can't take back, and the police are going to show up and drag my ass off to jail, and then I'm going to be off to prison. I think he's smart enough to realize that. And the daughters have a right to know what's going on here. It was a long time before we spoke again, and when we did, he did a little more than curse at me. What do you expect, a big hug? Hi, honey, how are you? I've missed you. How's your boyfriend? No. Suddenly, random acts of violence and vandalism began occurring. My lover's tires were slashed, and the word SLUT was keyed into all my car doors and spray painted on the front hood of the front door of the house I once shared with my husband. Well, I got no problem with the tires of the lover. How can I say this? Well, number one, he shouldn't have done anything to the house because that's where his daughters live. Okay? No. As for a car, his divorce lawyer was a shark. She made me, he hired a female attorney, very smart. She made me admit every last deceit and betrayal during my deposition. I may as well not have hired a lawyer. Well, that was a deposition. You were supposed to, if she asked you questions, admit them truthfully. This is your fault, after all. There was no blame to lay at my husband's feet. He had done absolutely nothing wrong. Well, see, that's the thing. That's what they all say. He did nothing wrong. He was a wonderful husband. But obviously, whether she wants to admit it or not, he had done something wrong. And what had he done wrong? Well, let's look at his actions. She said he called him a gentle husband and wonderful. He no doubt put her on the pedestal, probably made her his world, all these things. And she got bored. There's no excitement, no butterflies. I'm willing to bet you the other guy probably gave her excitement and butterflies. Probably was more on the toxic level. I, on the other hand, appeared to everyone in the court, including the judge and my family and myself, as the vile, evil creature. The woman who deceived a generous, supportive, loving husband, who for her own selfish motives blew up her family so they lived with chaos, misery, and despair rather than the light and love they had known for so long. Well, isn't that what happened? Isn't that what you did? So if that's how it got out in the courtroom and the family heard it and the judge heard it and the FedEx driver heard it, well, that's what you did. A lot of these stories, guys, they cover, the women do what they do, the wives do what they do, the girlfriends do what they do, but what really pisses them off is when it gets out in public. And then everybody knows what they really did. They can't hide it anymore. When they're exposed, when the guy controls the narrative, that really sets them off. Because narcissists, and in spite of how she portrays herself in her bio that I read in the beginning, she's a narcissist, they don't want to look anything but wonderful. She says, my daughters hate me now. They're in pain. They know I'm the cause of it, and my ex has done nothing to take that off of me. Well, you're the one that ruined the marriage. The daughters have a right to A, know what happened, and B, if they hate your guts for it, you brought that on yourself. Listen to all this boo-hooing here. Why should he? He was a wonderful person, a good and kind man. In other words, trying to take the blame off her. He had been a man who respected women and treated them well. It is because of me that he no longer thinks of acts like women deserve kindness or trust. There you go. Another guy, another bad boy, a-hole, if you will, has been created by being crushed by a woman that he thought, by loving her and conditionally giving her all his love, would come back to him. Yeah. If you are upset that you create a monster, well, that's on you. And the whole respected women and treated them well and act like they deserve any guy that watches me regularly should know darn well you never fully put full trust in anybody. Especially, it is what it is, guys. I'm going to be 50 in 3 years. I've been around the fucking block. He says, we don't talk to each other, and I don't hear about him very much. Why the fuck would he talk to you? Our mutual friends took his side, and most abandoned me completely. Again, can you blame them? There's one woman, the wife of a friend of his, who tells me that my ex has become a different person. He spends times in strip clubs and has SCX with prostitutes. Well, that beats having a girlfriend that you can't trust. I think it's stupid spending all your time in strip clubs. And with the hookers, well, we can debate back and forth on that one, you know. But at the end of the day, at least he's getting what he pays for and can walk away. It's all business. No illusions. He dates women but never stays with one longer than a few weeks. So, it's funny. He's total opposite of what he once was. And guess what? He has no shortage of women in his life. Isn't that interesting? In fact, I bet you this woman writing this story is actually probably feeling attraction for her husband all of a sudden. When they start getting close, he shuts them out and blocks their numbers and ignores their calls. Ugh, the bastard. And yet they're chasing after him. Her husband told her that my ex has said women are no good, can't be trusted, and will never be equal to men. I'm truly sorry for what I did to my ex-husband. I'm sorry for the pain I caused him and my children. And I'm sorry that there is another misogynist in the world because of me. Guys, do you think she truly is sorry? Do you think she's really sorry about her husband, her family, her kids? Doesn't sound like it to me. I think she's more sorry that, she's been exposed like this and made to look like a fool. And maybe her penance is now to try to, what it's saying. I'm not going to go back to the bio I read in the beginning, but you heard how, and she wrote her bio, obviously, embellished in who she is and all these things, and truthful and honest, and helping empower women and all that stuff. Bullshit. Maybe I'm one of these kind of moods today. But this just bugs the shit out of me when I hear these things. And he's the bad guy here. Yeah, you can't blame him for doing a 180 after what happened. Because in his mind, all these years, I was loving, I was kind. No guy should be the type that their wife describes as gentle. That's going way too far. But probably he was that guy. And he did a 180. And now he's banging chicks. He's going to strip clubs. He's banging hookers. He's going on dates. Probably loving and leaving them. He's that guy that women claim they all hate, and yet strangely are drawn to. And doesn't trust women. Can you blame him? And she's upset that her daughters hate her guts. She brought this on herself. Where's the accountability? I don't feel a whole lot of remorse. And notice you haven't heard anything about the guy that she was sleeping with anymore. She neglected to mention that. I wonder if he kicked her to the curb. But anyhow, guys, maybe you could categorize this as a wee bit of a rant today. I don't know. But I thought it'd be good one to go over here about the whole making the guy out to be the monster and woe is me, he's the bad guy now because of what I did, and the whole lack of accountability. It is amazing. So, gentlemen, when you hear women complain that there's no good men out there, and the guys are jerks, and guys are monsters, and this, and this, remember it's a possibility that these guys were once good guys, and they were just completely, after seeing what that kindness brought to them. So gentlemen, I don't want you to become jerks. I don't want you to become a-holes. It's all about finding the right balance. But one thing's for certain, you put your full trust in anybody, especially, let's be honest, a woman, especially nowadays, you're setting yourself up. If you're being that wonderful, kind, gentle, give your whole self to her, make her your whole world, that may not end well for you, especially nowadays. So I advise you put yourself first. You're not being a jerk to everybody, but you take care of you. You take care of your priorities. You get the point. I don't need to go through this whole thing. You guys have been watching me for a while. You know what I mean by that. You want to be the happy medium. You don't want to be the douchebag, Chatter Tyrone, but you certainly aren't going to be the vanilla nice guy that's a doormat. Look what happens to them. But anyhow, she's written lots of articles. I'm going to peruse her thing, see if there's more there I can roast, because she deserves to be roasted, frankly. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. If you want me to cover more articles from her and roast them, let me know in the comment section, and I will. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.